It's me, Maze the Storyteller, back at you with a brand new video, and today is my first video ever, so if you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, it would mean the world to me. But today I have a special video that I wanted to bring to your attention, young viewer, wherever you may be in this world. Now, on this channel, I'll be talking about mythos, legends, and everything I come across in between. One of the things I came across was this young man's video, Markiplier. He runs a secondary YouTube channel called Annus. His primary channel is Markiplier, but this specific instance that we're talking about is on Annus. And he has a co-host named Ethan. I don't know much about him. But they made a video today talking about giants in the real world. And their hypothesis, the question at hand, was how tall can a human get? And they hypothesized you could only limit to 10 feet, or slightly above. So we'll say around 10 feet. Now, in the legends, we have multiple giants, cyclops, all of the above. They are all over the mythos. You can find them from any legend. You can open up the freezer, pick out a legend, and consume it right there. Right? Some of which being Goliath as the most famous, portrayed in the Bible and Judaism and so forth. Another one would pertain to possibly Prometheus, who was a titan who gave people fire. So you have so many legends surrounding around height. Why is height such an important factor when talking about the mythos? Well, height leads to the belief of superiority or power. When in reality, you could be smart, you could be strong despite your height. It doesn't matter. In fact, I would argue and wager that shorter people have a better structural integrity than taller people do as far as muscle structure goes. But that's totally irrelevant. We're talking about giants. How tall could a human being get? Well, you have to remember how bones are created and how the development occurs when you're a fetus. So essentially your skeletal system as a fetus is completely made up of cartilage. And what happens is your mother consumes minerals, it's processed through and through, and you are just fed these minerals as a little abiding fetus. You're like, give me the minerals. Gimme. So then you start growing and maturing, and those cartilage ends begin packing in the calcium, causing ossification, in which mineral deposits harden around the cartilage and replace the cartilage over time. So, this theory means that the cartilage ends within the bone could substantially grow even further, assuming the end still remains, which they do. So, let's think about this thoroughly. If you keep adding an influx of minerals to every cartilage end that you regrow, you could potentially grow inch by inch to make it to whatever height. Bone stimulus is completely different to what is possible, though. Okay, so you can stabilize the bone to grow at a mature rate. However, can the body sustain that maximum growth potential? Well, you would have to consume an abundance amount of minerals and nutrients in order to provide sufficient energy sources so that your cells don't die out in the regrowing process. If they do, you're in a bind, my friend. You will collapse. You will have so many. That's why giganticism, for instance, have so many deformities and are so disproportionate. It's because the body couldn't keep up with the rapid growth that the hormones were making it provide. And not only that, they didn't have the proper nutritions during the healing cycle. So let's go back even further to metabolic rate. What is metabolic rate? Metabolic rate is at which you process energy, to keep it simplistic. Now, let's add something to the table. Now we're causing a catabolic effect. Catabolic effects are essentially where the decomposition of cells are created, right? So what happens after the decomposition of cells? Well, now you have anabolic effects, which are the recomposition and rebuilding of whatever had that called. Catabolic means destruction. Anabolic means rebuilding. So the greater catabolic effect on the body, the greater the anabolic effect will take. So as long as you have ample nutrients and ample minerals, you could essentially grow as much as you wanted. The problem is you would have to go through such a just a huge, massive process of catabolism that it's really, you can't process it. And the reason I say that is because you would essentially have to be turned to powder to grow to the 36 foot that Mark and Ethan were talking about in the video. Right? That's the magic number, 36 feet. How could you possibly grow to 36 feet? I'm not going to say it's impossible, highly improbable. And the reason why they were bringing up 36 feet is because there are records predating, books and whatnot, that a human being was recorded to be 36 feet. Whether that's true or not is irrelevant. It is a possibility, although it is a very, very slim. I would say one, not even a billion. I would say 1 out of 4 billion people could make it to even a quarter of that height. So I mean, it's very much insane to think. But is it impossible? No, not really. I mean, if you grew up in the mountains, you would be taller than you would if you grew up in the mainland. Why? Because there's a more abundance of minerals. You're probably drinking straight water from a waterfall that's carrying minerals and an abundance of such. So, the concept of rebuilding after the catabolic effect is very much possible. The problem is the catabolic process itself. Could you go through an extreme process? No. You would die. The pain influx alone would cause you to go into cardiac arrest. I mean, your nerves would just explode from the pain. What would have to happen is every bone in your body just turn into powder. And then, somehow, while you're in a gooey state, you would have to absorb nutrients, whether it be through eating, drinking, whatever. You would have to, an abundance of nutrients, not like your normal 3 meals a day. You would have to supplement that a tenfold. So now you're intaking too much and your body could not sustain it. So naturally, I don't think this could occur. Now, man-made is a different story. What if a human being were to add body parts? More specifically, take fresh bones and put them inside a living human being and make that the catabolic process. Right? Because it's still a destructive process. It's just what kind. So if they kept the cartilage endings intact on the bone when installing these bones into a fresh human being, it may be possible to heal that one bone at a time, creating a larger human. You would have stretch marks, scars, but the tissue would ultimately grow back. And the ossification would be applied to this situation. So it is possible that BC, in that time period, doctors developed a way to create giants and somehow make it to where they survive. Now, we're talking about an age way predating our medical knowledge that we have today. I mean, they're using stone, maybe steel, if you want to give them superior credit. So their medical knowledge is next to none at this point. So is it likely that they could make a human like that? No, but it's fun to theorize. So yes, in theory, the catabolic process that they would go through is adding bones to a pre-existing body, one that's essentially still alive, okay? By giving these properties to another body, that body could heal after receiving an abundance of nutrients, but not as much as you would need to regrow, but more to adapt to the growth that you are being forced to have. This could potentially make a giant. The issue with this, though, is really how the body would react and adapt to that. Now, the body itself is designed to adapt to pretty much any situation, right? When you have your homeostasis and you change your homeostasis will adapt and become a new homeostasis, right? So basically you can adapt to any environment, hence temperature. Let's take temperature for example. Let's say you go into the extreme cold. What does your body do? It shivers. What is shivering? It's where your molecules vibrate at such a rapid rate, consuming energy in order to produce heat to maintain a body temperature of around 86 degrees. right? Same thing with heat. You sweat. Your sweat glands pour out sweat in order to cool the body down, back down to about 86 degrees. Now, obviously, that main temperature varies between homeostasis and homeostasis of two different people. However, the concept still remains. So, that base concept put into a more complex concept, such as adding bones to a human being. Would your muscular structure begin to regrow and adapt around the new bone in order to produce basically a new structure altogether? It has remained to be seen. I can't answer that because I am not a scientist, despite what you may think after watching this video. But the concept, I would honestly have to say yes. I would say that you would be extremely tired. You'd be in an invigorating amount of pain. However, your body would try to, at least attempt to, adapt to that physical change that is brought upon you. So I do think that cells would start to pour in, and you would start developing layer by layer by layer of muscle tissue that you could eventually train. But how many years would it take, right? How many months would it take? I have no idea, but I do think it is still possible that these giants could have been forced, not necessarily naturally occurring. Now, let's talk about the new segment, naturally occurring giants from legend. Right? So let's go back in time, back into the Steel Age, in which everybody was 4'9". Hence the Ponce de Leon statue down there in St. Augustine. I'm located in Florida, which is in the United States. It's basically the little dangly penis all the way down in the United States. If you don't know where Florida is, well, you haven't been to Universal or Disney, and I feel sorry for you. I'm a resident here, so I've seen the weirdest things. And in Florida, we get a ton of tourists, and I can tell you I have seen. In fact, I have family members who are over 7 foot. So that fact alone, I'm over 6 foot. So if you took me, for example, I'm over 6 foot. I'm not going to disclose the entire height that I have. But if I were thrown back in time, I would be considered a giant. I would. Because people back then grew a maximum height of, I would say, around 5'6" was extremely tall. So if you threw a 6'5" giant into the world, you have Goliath, essentially. And look at guys like the Mountain. The Mountain is that natural height. Okay, he is 6'11", 6'9", somewhere around there. And he's a massive human being. Won the world's strongest men title a few times. Or at least competed for it a few times. So he is very strong, very powerful human being. Could he occur naturally back in the day? It's very possible. In fact, some may argue that there were more mineral abundances back in the day than there are now. So yes, a human being could potentially be around the same size they are today. Right? That being said, would it occur as often? I think it would. I think the issue is the population wasn't as dense as it is now. Right? Per capita. So a human being that comes around like that would be more rare, for sure. They still came around, but they would be extremely rare. So, yes, a human being 6'11", 6'9", would be massive. It's massive today. It would be extremely massive predating that. A 6 foot person would be massive predating that. It's just only because of the dense population they had, right? Because they didn't get to see too many people. In fact, I would wager that the same towns knew each other on a name basis, in fact, a family basis, right? A town may have consisted of only 10 people. So the times have shifted, but the heights may not have, but the abundance of people has. So that being said, giants may not have been myth or legend, but rather exaggerated. Now, could there have been a 36-foot human being? No. I don't believe so. Could there have been a 14-foot human? Very possibly. That would be around the maximum extent that a human being could procure naturally. And that subjugates all of what I've been saying. I'm not sure. I'm just rambling now, guys. But if you enjoyed this video, let me know, it being my first. And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment for more. And let me know what you think my next video should be. Anyway, guys, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Take it easy. Amaze the Storyteller, signing out. And just remember, the king of beasts is always watching.